Hi there. Thanks for joining today's sponsored webinar by Medallia. This is Erica Ashfeld from the CXPA, and we are honored to celebrate CXDay with you, our global day to recognize the customer experience profession and the industry. So thanks once again for joining us. I have a few housekeeping reminders before we go ahead and get started. As an attendee, you're welcome to ask questions throughout today's session. There's a question panel where you can go ahead and ask your question, and we'll have a Q&A at the end where we'll reserve that time. So ask questions throughout. Another reminder I have for you is that the recording will be available after today's session on the CXPA website. So it'll also be sent out an email for those who have registered. So we hope that you find that very valuable. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce today's speakers, Jennifer Schmidt from our partners at Medallia, and then Dayton, who is the GM of Global Customer Success at CA Technologies. So we're very excited to hear on the topic today of CA's CX transformation, the quest for loyalty and growth. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Jennifer.
Thanks, Erica. Good afternoon, everybody, and happy CX Day. Both myself and Dayton are very excited to be here today. We're very much looking forward to sharing CA Technologies' CX transformational journey and their partnership with Medallia over the past 4 years. Before we get into the details around CA's transformation, I wanted to share a little bit with the audience about who Medallia is. Medallia is a software as a service company specializing in operationalizing customer experience management. Our mission is simple. We want to create a world where companies are loved by their customers and employees. Simply, we are obsessed with helping companies capture feedback everywhere their customers are, whether online, in person, or through their mobile devices. And we do this solely for the purpose to empower employees through the voice of the customer and inspire action and drive business results in real time. How do we do this? We do this through our Experience Cloud solution, which uses human and machine learning. The Medallia Experience Cloud is purposefully built cloud platform around 4 key elements that we had in mind. First and foremost was to create a frictionless customer dialogue. We wanted to gather customer opinions and sentiment across the entire customer journey. Secondly, we wanted to provide engagement at scale, so you can engage your entire organization by integrating customer feedback with operational as well as organizational data to uncover the most powerful and important insights for the organization. These insights transform your company and direct action across your entire organization, ultimately transforming your company by empowering your employees to make smarter, more informed decisions on behalf of your customers as well as your company. Lastly, certainly a mission-critical system for your organization. It is to serve as a central nervous system for your organization on all things customer. So let's go ahead and move into some real-world example around transformation. Very excited to introduce Dayton to you to share CA's story for Customer Experience Professionals Day and CX Day. So Dayton, why don't you go ahead and share a little bit about yourself and what CA does with the audience.
Thanks, Jennifer. I appreciate it. Welcome, everybody, and I'm excited to be here as well. Happy CX Day. To all out there. I think this is a wonderful day, and I'm thrilled that we're able to share our story together today with CXPA and with Medallia. I think, as was mentioned at the beginning of this, my background is I'm the general manager of the Global Customer Success Organization here at CA. It's 1,200 people comprised of success and support organization to deliver a superior customer experience and ensure our customers and partners get the maximum value from the technology investments and that they realize that their business outcomes. Prior to the role I've been in, I was the general manager of a couple billion-dollar mainframe business here at CA, drove the next generation strategy and helped revitalize that business and turn it into a growth business. And I've been in the technology industry for the last 25 or so years in a variety of customer-facing roles as the Chief Marketing Officer, Head of Sales, and in strategy as well. So with that being said, here's who we are at CA. We are a $4 billion B2B enterprise software company with over 1,200 patents, 11,000 employees, and 40 years of heritage. You don't hear that much in the software industry anymore. We're focused on transforming complex IT investments for our customers across mainframe to cloud and to mobile. You can see on the right here of the slide the customers that we do business with are global leaders. They're some of the largest across the Fortune 50, global banks, financial services, all around the world. These are the companies that power the global economy, and they use our software to help power their business. It said overall that business is being rewritten by software and that every company is becoming a software company. So if that's the case, then those that are going to prosper in the application economy are going to need to transform themselves into a modern software factory. We help our customers do that by building the modern software factory across 4 critical areas here. You can see, first, creating agile businesses, thinking agile development processes and API management, helping our customers build better applications faster, think DevOps, making security a source of competitive advantage, and with all going on in security, think identity, access management, and threat management, and then also maximizing application performance, thinking monitoring insights, again from mainframe to mobile. So at a high level, that's who we are. Those are the customers that we serve, and those are the problems that we're trying to solve to help them build a modern software factory.
Thanks, Dayton. Let's go 4 years back when we began our partnership, when you began your partnership with Medallia. What was CA's major business challenge that you were facing?
Sure, good question. Good question, Jennifer. So several years ago, I think to net it out, we were faced with the challenge of revitalizing revenue growth in a rapidly changing environment where the customers that we were serving were moving from large upfront on-premise transactions to the cloud and SaaS subscription model. And in that world, that pivot we were trying to make, we identified customer experience as a key driver of differentiation, loyalty, and a fundamental way to help us revitalize our revenue growth. Also, we knew that we needed to take a very different approach than we'd taken in the past. We needed to get the customer back into the building, into the DNA of 11,000 employees, and we needed partners that understood, had tools and best practices that could help us scale and handle this in a large, globally distributed, complex environment. And most importantly, I think, again, we needed to hear loudly that voice of the customer and be able to act on it.
So when you think about your CX transformation in your journey and radically changing the way that you interact with your customers, what specifically were you looking to accomplish? What were those key priorities that you had identified?
Sure. I think at the summary level, we wanted to get as close as possible to our customers as quickly as possible, and we wanted to understand their wants and needs, the perceptions of what CA was doing well, where we were doing a great job is always nice to know, but also understand where we weren't doing a good job, and what specific actions our customers wanted us to take. We have a large, complex portfolio, so we're not a one-product software company. We have portfolios across the 4 areas that I just managed. There are hundreds of products in here, and so we also had to be able to deal with the complexity of understanding our relationship, what things felt like at the relationship level. We needed to understand them at specific touch points across the customer journey, and we also needed to understand specific product experiences that were being had. So we needed to kind of be able to roll all of that up together. And we knew that starting out, because of the scale challenge that we had, we needed an ongoing program that was going to be comprised of best practices, methods, and tools to help help us engage with our customers. And as I said, move the voice of the customer back inside the center of CA, turn up the volume, increase the clarity, and then take action on it, which is really what our customers wanted us to do most.
So you've been working on this for the past 4 years, where you've made this large investment around transforming the DNA of your organization to really essentially be focused around your customer. Do you have any results that you can share with us? What does your journey look like the past 4 years?
Sure. So there's a couple of things I guess I'll hit at the summary level. The first, this is we're a publicly traded company. We're in a quiet period right now, and so this is information from our past quarter, and this is information that was shared on the earnings call. Our CEO, Mike Gregoire, who I'll be talking more about in the call here, made the comment to the analysts that the investments we were making in customer experience and success had consistently increased CA's Net Promoter Score, an industry standard measure of customer loyalty, that in the first quarter of our fiscal, NPS had improved dramatically compared to a year ago, and that we had increases in customers who considered us to be a strategic partner, increases in customer satisfaction, and continue to rise in ratings of product quality, which were important to us. If I back up and get away from just the quarterly view here and take a look at what does the transformation look like over a number of years, here's a picture that basically gives a sense of what has been going on for the last 4 or 5 years. And what you can see here is we have our Net Promoter Score at the bottom. We have our revenue growth mapped to the top. It says fiscal year 14. That's actually our fiscal year, which is calendar 2013, so it's lag shifted by a year. But what you can see is our NPS scores have been going up systematically year over year. We don't publish those NPS scores publicly, but this gives you a very clear sense of what's been happening. Also, our revenue growth has been moving up almost in lockstep. And you can see that last year, our last fiscal year, we turned the corner from essentially negative growth to positive growth for the first time. And in FY18, the year that we're in right now, at the end of that Q1 earnings call, we had increased guidance as well. One of the things that people always ask us about is the relationship between NPS and the relationship between revenue growth in our organization. And one of the things that we've come to find is there's a very good, tight relationship with that. Caveat here, of course, is that we are an acquisitive company, so we buy a lot of other companies, and so there's inorganic revenue in every one of those years. It's part of our business model, but you can clearly see that there is a very strong relationship between increased levels of customer sentiment as measured by NPS, loyalty, and the transformation of our revenue story. So our customer experience flywheel is turning. We're making great progress. For sure, we are far from done. Later I'll talk about some of the other things we're doing from a strategy perspective and a milestone perspective. One of the other pieces of the transformation also was some work. I'd mentioned that I have the support organization as well. And in the early days, the support organization was one of the top 3 drivers of our detractors, and it no longer is. We ran a very aggressive customer experience transformation across people, process, and technology within this function, a critical customer-facing function. And as you can see from some of the metrics here, all the customer-facing metrics have had a significant turnaround. Day 1 close rate going from well below the industry average to above the industry average, approaching best in class. The reduction in mean time to resolution by over 60%. Our customers wanted us to solve problems faster. You can see that our support satisfaction, so the transactional survey that is done at the close of a case, has gone up from 9 to 9.4, which is best in class in the industry. And product NPS scores, again, moving up significantly over the last couple of years. And I think lastly, at the bottom of the slide, a number of awards. It's nice to be recognized by the industry for work that we're doing, whether it's by CXPA or Omega or TSIA or Pulse. And I think for us, this is important to mark our progress internally with our employees, as well as externally with our customers.
Well, congratulations. These results are outstanding. And these are the type of results that all B2B companies look to achieve in relation to revenue growth, loyalty improvements, improvements around their NPS, improvements within their support strategy, and overall satisfaction there within customer support. For the audience, I think it would be really helpful to understand and go back in time to the very beginning, back to FY14. And it reminds me when I had first met you when I started at Medallia, and you were really looking at identifying that partner that was really going to help take you to that next level. And we were both discussing How do you do this? How do you go about organizational transformation? And we all know that change is never easy, especially in an organization your size. What would you consider to be the most important elements of your program's transformation that you can share with the audience?
Well, Jennifer, as luck would have it, I have a slide here up on the screen. I'm saying that with a smile. I'm saying that with a smile on my face.
Yeah.
But I've tried to do the almost impossible, which is net out 4 years of transformation in a few minutes. So let me take a swing at it here. I think the first thing you can see up there in the upper left-hand corner is having the right conditions for a transformation. For CA, that actually was having a new CEO, Mike Gregoire, and an executive management team come in as the catalyst for change with the mandate to revitalize growth, which was their burning platform. Actually, 2 weeks before Mike started in the organization, I got a phone call saying that the new CEO coming in was asking every function to give him everything that we had on what our customers thought of us and what they wanted us to do differently or better. At that moment, I knew we actually had the right leader, a CEO who was deeply, deeply committed to the customer, deeply customer-centric. It was in his DNA. In his first town hall, he outlined some of the things he thought about our customers, outlined the massive transformation that we had to undergo from an on-premise to a software-as-a-service company. In addition, partner in here, Adam Elster, who actually won a CX award today from CXPA, so we're thrilled about that, was running the global field sales organization. He was an early supporter, knew the importance of NPS, knew the importance of customer, and was supportive of the transformation. So I knew that because of that new CEO, the management team, the desire, the burning platform for growth, we absolutely had the right conditions in place and permission basically to do the CX transformation. I think the next thing that's important is having the right team in place. And so for me, I always see the Swiss Army knife over here because there's so many things that you need to have in order to have the right team in place, and it's always impossible to find this in kind of one person. They would have to be a human Swiss Army knife. But some of the skills that are important along the journey, not just at the beginning, but along the total journey, are you got to have a strategy background. What's the strategy of the business? What's the strategy, and how do you differentiate, and how does CX play into it? It's good to have people who have a strong sales and marketing background to understand the customer, the value prop, what you're trying to accomplish. You have to have strong financial and analytical skills because you have to build a great and sustain a great business case, making the case for investment, making the case for prioritization of the work. Human resources, it's all going to get done through people and programs, incentives, training and development, Lean Six Sigma, business transformation, change management, and system dynamics, having a strong process orientation and needing to be able to see the whole picture and understanding cause and effect and how some of those things work. So those were absolutely critical elements. I want to just pause for a second here, thank my management team, the folks who report to me across customer success and experience and analytics and operations and support. These people do a fantastic job day in and day out driving our transformation, and for them, thank you very much. I'm deeply, deeply appreciative. The next thing, of course, that you have to do is you have to have a great plan in place. And so again, as I mentioned earlier in the call, because of the scale and complexity with what we were trying to accomplish, we didn't want to just kind of come out of the gates and guess. We became students very, very quickly of best practices. We've done work. We work closely with Forrester, with CXPA, certainly Medallia, with Bain, PwC, TSIA, Gainsight, Temkin. We look at what all of the best practices are out there, and we think about how do we customize them to our culture and to our environment. We've also studied some of the best companies out there and had a ringside seat next to some of these, with Disney, Apple, Zappos, Southwest. We're members of the CXPA. We're members of the Forrester CX Leadership Council. We're members of the Bain Loyalty Forum. And so we are students of customer experience, all day, every day. The industry is evolving rapidly, and we continue to keep our finger on the pulse. But we built our transformation blueprint from the best practices in theory and the best practices of what has actually worked with our companies. The next thing in that 6-up slide that I showed you was this idea of strong executive support. I think at this point everybody understands you have to have a CEO that's on board, and it's great that we have it. I shared with you Mike's passion around the customer before he even walked into the building. But what's also true to pull off a transformation of this magnitude is you have to have the entire executive team bought in here. And we have been blessed and fortunate at CA that the entire executive team is in fact bought in and carries the flag. Upper left, I just mentioned Adam. I talked about him as one of our early partners in NPS and working with the field and closing the loop and helping us stand up the original system. He also, again, was received an award today from CXPA for CX innovation, which is exciting. Otto Burkus, the Chief Technology Officer, he personally got involved in helping us in the development of the CX 2020 strategy. Lauren Flaherty, our CMO, when she saw the original piece of work, she declared that this had to be the rallying cry for the company, and she and our organization helped make it happen. Mike, General Counsel, Legal, you think, oh boy, you don't want to get into trouble with the legal team, but the legal team did a great job jumping in, simplifying contracts. Like, you know, customers want a simple, easy contract. They did a wonderful job. Paul Prinsati, who I work for, running global operations in IT, clearly he helped to put CX on the corporate scorecard. It is a corporate metric of ours, NPS, and all of what we do has to be driven by automation and IT investment. A huge advocate, as has been our CFO, as has Ayman, our Chief Product Officer, who is focused on agile development and delighting the customer every way they can, bringing the customer into product sprints, and even Jacob Lamb, the head of strategy, integrating CX into the strategy development cycle here at CA. So it's necessary and absolutely important to have the CEO be an advocate, but what's also true is you have to have the entire management team brought in. One of the other areas, I guess the fifth of the 6 areas, is this idea around organizational alignment. And the question is, how do you get that level of executive and organizational alignment, and how do you keep it? And the glib answer of that is you get it carefully, deliberately, and continuously. I wrote about these 4 areas in my blog. I've given a 1-hour presentation at the Medallia Experience Conference. There's a 1-hour version that goes deep into each of these topics. Because of time today, I'm just going to simply do a quick drive-by. Many of you CXPA experts out there already understand this intuitively by the work that you're doing. But clearly, the first thing you got to do is, like, you've got to engage everybody's hearts. Like, what's the rallying cry? What's the emotional cry that's going to engage everybody's heart? Sometimes it's a threat of extinction. Sometimes it's about new competition. Sometimes it's about a new business model. You know, for us, our industry was changing from on-premise to SaaS and cloud. We needed to rally as an organization, or the industry was going to pass us by. And so that engaged everybody, revitalizing growth and talking about customer loyalty. The next is this idea of engaging the minds. You have to have a bulletproof business case. I'll show you a couple pictures in a minute of some of the things that we had used to build our case. But, you know, these companies and teams that get into trouble are able to rally people emotionally, but have run into trouble putting the economics behind it. This is the #1 area I see people struggle or ask for help, and it's so super important that I'm going to come back to it in 20 seconds. Next is you got to have this idea of the multilingual business case. Like, so what is that? Like, a business case is usually a spreadsheet and some numbers and an ROI. To get and keep an executive member engaged, they all have a common vocabulary that they share with each other when they get together. They also have different functional vocabularies that they speak when they're talking to their individual teams. And as a transformation leader, you have to be able to speak to both of those. So for the CEO and the executives, it's about customer loyalty. It's about revitalizing growth. But when you're talking to the CFO, you'd better have an ROI case. When you're talking to the Chief Marketing Officer, you better be talking about brand and reputation. When you're talking to the head of sales, you better be talking about growth. When you're talking to HR, the Chief People Officer, you better be talking about employee experience and engagement. And of course, when you're talking to the CTO or Chief Product Officer, you better be talking about usability, product differentiation, and user experience. And so those are a number of things that you have to be able to pivot and reframe the case for CX in in order to get and keep people on board. And then lastly, I politely call this engaging the wallets, but at the end of the day, incentives are a powerful, powerful driver. You have got to align the incentives. You have to reduce friction to increase the transformation acceleration, across your organization. And for us inside of CA, some people have NPS targets. Not everybody has an NPS target, but everybody in the company has a goal and an action to improve the customer experience. Last thing I'll show, and then Jennifer, I'll take a breath and we'll come back here. It's just lastly the business case. People ask me about this all the time, about the analytics. What do you show? How do you make it? And so here's a few things. I just want to give a few things out here on CXDay to some of my colleagues around the world. But you've got to be able to frame the value of what you're doing, NPS, and how does it relate to the lifetime value of a customer? Differential value beneath that. What's the differential spending pattern and value of a promoter, a passive, a detractor, and a non-respondent for you folks who actually use NPS? Very powerful set of analytics. NPS correlation. I showed you at the beginning of this presentation the relationship between our NPS improvement and our revenue. There's publicly available data that you can take a look at this by industry in some areas. What's super important is you take a look at the economics and how it works within your own organization and the relationship between NPS and revenue growth. Down at the bottom, I'm sorry, actually, let's go to the right, the driver analysis. This actually comes right out of the Medallia platform, being able to take a look at when somebody says, well, what are the most important things we should work on? What are the things that are going to drive loyalty the most? What's going to have the highest impact? And oh, by the way, what are the things that we're already good at that we don't need to overinvest in, that we just need to maintain? Having a good sense of the quantitative analytics of what impacts the likelihood to recommend and how do customers perceive your performance is absolutely critical. And then lastly, at the bottom, again, all kind of this is not all real data in here, but it's representative of what you could be doing. Is taking a look at the relationship for us, taking a look at the differential value in somebody who views this as a transactional software vendor, a solution provider, or a strategic partner. And I think it's no surprise to anybody out there, especially in the B2B space, customers don't want to buy software or a point solution. They want to build a long-term, enduring, loyal relationship, and so the value of strategic partnerships, of course, is very high. So, and of course, the right technology partner here at the end. I wouldn't want to leave my friends Medallia out here. We are going to talk, I think, a little bit more about this later, but suffice it to say, we scanned the marketplace. We went to the major conferences. We read every report that was out there. We looked at all of the emerging leaders. We did a very exhaustive piece of analysis and work before we pulled the trigger and made our decision. But spoiler alert, we ended up with Medallia. We're very happy with it, and I'll be talking more about that in a few minutes. So Jennifer, I'll take a breath now and back to you. Yeah.
Right. I have several questions, but
okay.
I'll try to only ask a few here. So when we look at this business case, and certainly the analytical proof of you building the momentum across your organization, all of the different groups that you talked to, how did you go about engaging your executives around the data that you've put together and those best practices? How did they respond initially when you brought this business case to them?
I'll tell you what, and I think I've told you this in the past. It actually took me by surprise. I've been a transformation executive for over 15 years, and I usually spend the first 3 to 6 months kind of making the case, socializing the idea, trying to win support. Usually spend another 3 to 6 months trying to catch the next funding or budgeting cycle, and then kind of another 3 months to get started. So it's like a year to get going. I had about a 50-slide deck. I had about 45 slides making the case, and my final 5 slides were the first steps around implementation. And unanimously, as I walked that around and socialized it, I got cut off after about 10 slides. The executive said, yes, I understand it, I get it, let's go. Show me the implementation plan. And stop socializing. I want you to begin immediately, and I want you to get going right now. And I think that speaks to 2 things. I think it speaks to, yes, we had a good business case. The intuition behind just treating your customers better and having them become more loyal and that improving your financial performance, I think, is certainly not lost on anybody. And again, I think it gets back to a passionate executive team who is here to take action, ready to go, and saw this as a critical move that was necessary as part of our overall CA transformation.
So if we go back to the beginning and we think about your challenge in the fact that your market was changing, your business model was changing, you were moving from a on-premise model to more of a software as a service. You needed to increase your revenue along with your profitability. Your customer strategy was a big part of that and a big part of the initiative to make that business transformation. You've been working on this transformation for the past 4 years. And as we all know as CX professionals, a lot of times is that, yes, major focus initially on the voice of the customer, and it becomes potentially that flavor of the month, if you will. How have you sustained this type of executive alignment and engagement over the course of these past 4 years?
I'll tell you, that is a great question. You're right. It's extraordinarily difficult to do, and I'll reframe it slightly, which is I think the executive team, I think Mike Gregoire, the executive team, took the action themselves to think about how did they want to sustain it, and we had identified this early on in our kind of transformation studies that all great companies that are able to sustain something big like this, they do it by creating a purpose-driven, customer-centric organization, and Mike as part of, and the executive team as part of kind of their organizational transformation, took it on themselves to kind of review and revisit what is the mission of our company. And as you can see in the top left-hand corner, we revitalized the mission about a year or so ago, and it was very simply stated to eliminate the barriers between ideas and outcomes. It's really about the customer's ideas, and making sure that the customer is delivered the outcomes that they were promised. In addition to the mission, you can't quite read it on the slide that I have here, but we also the team came out with new DNA, and DNA thinking about who we are when we're at our very best. And in there, which you can't read, and so I apologize for that, is being customer-centric, creative, agile, self-aware, results-oriented, collaborative, resilient, uncompromising integrity, and socially aware. These were the values or DNA that we lived by. And then lastly, in that tree, which actually was the thing that we had first, was to get us started with what is the promise that we're going to make to our customers, and are we living up to that promise every day? So you can see it here, to consistently deliver a superior experience by putting you, our customer, and your organization at the center of all that we do. The ultimate measure of our success is through your success and earning your trust as a strategic partner. And so the real buildup was to make make CA the purpose-driven, customer-centric organization. And with your permission, I have I just got a couple of slides about how we were able to sustain that, because words are one thing, and the words are pretty, but how do you live it? How do you bring it into action?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, sorry, I was going to say, I think the audience would be very much interested in seeing that. Actually, that is one of the questions that I am most frequently asked, is around engaging the organization and empowering the employees, especially around change management. What does that look like for you guys? So we had a great partner. We have great partners in the marketing organization. We have great partners in the HR organization. We have great partners around. So think of it as a massive team initiative. This was also taken on at the executive level. But here at the top of this next slide, you get to see some of the assets that we have. I mean, the left there is our annual report from 2015, starting to talk about it. We have websites, videos, employee testimonials. There was a mission tour led by a global tour led by the executives to every one of our centers to talk about what the mission is, what the DNA is, what it means, why it's important, why it matters, and how they can bring it to life. We also have, you can see our CEO down there on the right from last year putting it out there on CXDay.
loving to communicate with our customers on a regular basis, and we also had executive-led workshops and town halls. In addition to some of this goodness here, we had some additional assets as well to build up our kind of our arsenal, if you will, on being customer-centric. We had a CX University with some very specific online assets. Think CX 101, NPS program, what our customers care about, what the results look like. You see this umbrella here on the right, a customer engagement program. This is something we are super excited and super proud of, which was a program built for non-customer facing employees to get some customer interaction so they could develop empathy. We could help solve customers' problems that they might be having, and also enhance possibly a financial outcome at the end. But with that, like finance, legal, HR, strategy, get on the phone, and what did they do? They closed the loop with customers in their NPS surveys, and it was a beautiful program to really get customers involved. We had customer immersion workshops. You can see some of them down at the bottom. Everybody's lived in the 3M sticky world. We also have a new CX reward and recognition, a reward and recognition program, which is the CEO has an award called the Eliminate Barriers Award. He gave it out. Mike gave it out last year, fourth quarter, for the first time to one individual who, by the way, was nominated. And it was crowdsourced and voted on by everybody inside of CA. So that's a wonderful award. That was the individual award. In October of this month, the first team award is going out. I think about 15 teams have been nominated, and they're coming forward. We got a couple people in there, so we're very excited about that. But you can see we have breadth and depth of assets not because we build them all, but because we have great partners on the inside. And to that end, I'll show you two more quick pictures. First is our greatest CX champion that we probably have is our CEO. That's a wonderful thing to have. You see on the right the letter he sent to our customers last year. A similar letter has gone out this year to 30,000 customers, but nothing is more important than your success. A letter to employees, a video to employees last year on CXDay. So we've been celebrating this for a few years right now. And so having the tone at the top be great. And then last summer, here's an example of great cross-functional participation. We're huge believers in the idea that inclusion drives adoption, and that everybody wants to have their hand on the plan. Everybody wants to see their picture, their fingerprint. And if you give them the chance to engage, they will give you their very best, not only in the design, but also in the implementation. This is a picture of a global, international cross-functional team last summer, helping build out the CX 2020 strategy down at the PwC CX Immersion Center. So broad-reaching program, broad-reaching assets, great partnerships with others around the organization. And as you can see from this picture, everybody's involved to make it happen.
Well, that's excellent. Thank you for sharing. I'm certain that there's some great learnings that other CXDA professionals out there that are listening to the webinar can certainly take back immediately and start working on these type of empowering employees and really highlighting them through customer feedback. This is fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us, Dayton.
Sure.
I want to go back to one of the comments that you had made very early on in the presentation, and that was around, the process that you went about on selecting technology and really looking for that partner to not only just enable your success for the near term, but also someone to grow with you throughout the course of the years and be a true partner to the business. You went about a fairly long process. I remember discussions with you when you were evaluating. As you laugh, I do remember those discussions and challenging ones. Oh no, those were great discussions. To really to evaluate that best-in-class VOC platform. I mean, how do you view your partnership with Medallia today? I guess I would say I know that you had very high standards and expectations. How is Medallia performing as your technology partner today on meeting some of those challenges?
Sure. I'll tell you what. I think that's a great question, and I'll back it up to say I don't classify Medallia as a technology partner. I see Medallia as a strategic partner with us. And the platform itself, I think I've said to you in the past and to groups in the past, it serves as our central nervous system or our primary listening platform for our customers, where we integrate, all of the customer where we integrate all of the customer feedback. Here's I'll back up to the picture. I'll back up to the picture. There we go. That looks like.
There we go.
That looks like what I get to see on a regular basis. So a couple of things here, like
keeping you on your toes.
Yeah, keep me dancing. This is good. But we do a lot of surveying here. We survey at the relationship level. We survey at the transactional level, whether it's services, education, support, customer success. We do product-specific surveys, and how do we grab those? How do we get that information? And again, just to not scare myself or anybody else, that data up there is just representative data. It's not our data. But having that 360 view in a single place is great. I showed it earlier, but the idea of integrated quantitative analytics, like what is the driver analysis? What has the biggest impact? What should we prioritize? What do we think that return on investment is going to be? And the quantitative stuff is great, but it does not give you root cause. It just tells you what's important. And the why, the magic of the why and the root cause is found in the text analytics. And so leveraging Medallia's text analytic capabilities to help us get to the root cause of what's driving dissatisfaction in a high importance area. And if you really get clean root cause, I mean, you almost have the answer right there of what has to happen next. Because I said we're a B2B software company, we have a large direct sales force, we're globally distributed, we wanted them to be able to get alerts from their customers, be able to close the loop immediately. That mobile app that Medallia has fantastic capabilities for our sales force, also great capabilities for me because I hit it about 50 times a day when we have one of our major waves open. So it's a great feedback mechanism for customers. It allows us to respond very, very quickly, which you can imagine is critical for customers, because the worst thing you can do is ask somebody to take a survey and then actually not respond to them when they say they'd like to talk about it. See some of the text analytics up there. And then in the bottom right, I know that you guys don't talk about it much, but it was our first real interaction with Medallia, which was the Medallia Institute. When we came out of the gate, the first thing I really wanted to know is, did you guys have any IP, beyond some technology platform? Did you understand the problem? Did you have holistic thinking around the technology and helping customers build better relationships? I think you talked about having customers love their partners, and we were looking for that. And so I actually went through that certification myself. I was so impressed. I took my management team through that certification. Note to CXPA, we have people going through the CXPA certification as well right now, because I think having that broad base of IP and understanding is really, really, really important. And so we evaluated Medallia as a whole partner, and you guys were top notch.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing. And I think, from my standpoint, looking at your journey and where you've come over the past 4 years, is really highlighted in the award that you won today around product innovation and really bringing the voice of the customer that you're leveraging from, the technology that Medallia brings you within your product sprints. Ultimately, you're taking that feedback to design your next products and or services that you're offering to the marketplace. And that's really closing the outer loop. And there's no greater gift that you can give to your customers than that. So that's very exciting. So, having said that, what's next for you?
So for us, I think I alluded to it earlier. After 3.5 years of our transformation work and having that flywheel turning, we stepped back to assess where we were, where we wanted to go, and we laid out what we think was a bold vision we call our CX 2020 vision and strategy. And as you can see at the end, it's about inspired employees delivering outcomes via superior customer experience. And the 3 real pillars of this thing are culture, code, and CX. And the belief that the source of competitive advantage lies in the intersection of the 3. From a culture perspective, having a purpose-driven, high-performance culture that inspires people. I showed you the mission, I showed you the DNA, I showed you the customer promise. We have a lot of work going on what are the specific behaviors right now that our customers want to see more of from us specifically, which, you know, spoiler alert, we can get that right from the Medallia platform and the data that we get out of the text analytics. What are we going to do to empower our employees to take action and improve the employee experience? We did some work on with your organization on the design of CX huddles, small teams designed to look at customer or employee experience specific issues and take action at a local level. So there's a number of things going on from a cultural transformation perspective. We are a software company like Medallia, so it is important for us to build products that solve modern problems and super high quality products because we sit in mission critical layers of the IT infrastructure in many of our customers. So big focus on quality, big focus on telemetry, big focus on ideation and roadmap engagement with our customers, and also the development organization has been through an agile development transformation. And then lastly, CX, wrapping all of that, having those high-performance, beautiful employees that build great code, and lastly, wrapping it and delivering it in a delightful and caring CX to our customers. You can see that we have a lot of work we do on the customer journey, proactive support, digital experience, and we're incorporating a lot of the principles and elements of lean and design thinking in here. And at the end of this, we believe that this is how CX becomes a source of sustainable competitive advantage, loyalty, and sustainable growth for CA on an ongoing basis. And
Very exciting.
Yep. And I guess lastly, the thing that I just wanted to hit real quick is because it's CXDay and it's CXDay around the world. In order to keep this going, we have done what we've done every year, and we thank CXPA for that. Mike, our CEO, sent out a letter this morning. Letter to all employees, letter to 30,000 customers with a click-through video, which was not a video this year of him talking, but an employee mosaic where hundreds of employees using their iPhones videotape themselves in a beautiful mosaic talking about what our mission means and what they specifically do to make the customer experience better for our organization. Also, Adam Elster sent out a note to the employees today regarding the mosaic. And again, I thank CXPA. We're honored to be awarded another innovation award. Adam's been a key member of this and been absolutely fantastic. So with that, Jennifer, I'd love to turn it back over to you.
Absolutely, Dayton. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Just very quickly, in lieu of time, I want to open it up for questions. However, I do want to share that Medallia does offer a best practice package specifically for B2B. And this best practice package is really comprised from working with leading Fortune 500 B2B brands such as CA Technologies. Certainly, you're able to take those learnings and learn from the best and get ready to start quickly out of the gate and have that quick time to value around customer as well as organizational transformation that Dayton spoke of. I mean, and ultimately, our best practice packages comprise of 6 key elements, and you heard Dayton talk about that throughout the webinar around engaging customers, getting closer to the customer in order to transform their business, ensuring that you're able to align the organization, and most importantly, while you align that organization, being able to act on that feedback that your customer is providing you to build those effective teams, and certainly help your sales team sell smarter by understanding, you know, is it a promoter, a detractor, is it a non-responder? Can we leverage loyalty for cross-sell, upsell opportunities? And most importantly, that last piece of being able to innovate at scale. Congratulations on the award around product innovation, and really inspires, and it's an inspiration around closing that outer loop. Like I said earlier, there's no better gift that you can give to your customers than being able to do that. So without further ado, you know, I want to open it up to questions from the audience. I know we're a little short on time there. So let's go ahead and open up those questions. See what we have coming through. One of the questions that I just got, and I think that this is a good one, because it's always great to learn from those lessons learned along the way, is if you had to do it all over again, what was one thing that you would have done differently in your journey?
Well, I think you heard my confession earlier on, having a little more optimism in the business case, and early on having thought out a faster implementation plan. But with that being said, the idea of going faster, we spent a lot of time analytically to make sure we had the proof that we were rock solid. We knew the most important things to do. We set up the governance structure, the transformation council, all of that. But I think very quickly on, I would have started to focus on what are the new behaviors that our customers are looking for us to engage in by function, because that also is it's a multi-year transformation to put that in for training, development, leadership and management systems, rewards and recognition. And so if you wanted to do a little more compression, front load a little bit more of the heavy lifting, I'd be looking at some of the behavioral and cultural dimensions as early as the time you're building the business case, and doing certainly the strong quantitative and analytic foundation necessary as well. That's probably one of them that that rattles around in my brain there a little bit.
That's very helpful, certainly, to understand that. And another one that came up, certainly, what were some of those major roadblocks that you had within the first year?
I mean, sure. I think some of the roadblocks were, I showed you about how to get that team together. It's like finding the right resources, finding the right team. It took me a little while to get my management team in place. I have a Six Sigma Master Black Belt. I have somebody who does design thinking. I've got a strong analytic background, but I have a new analytics team leader, a new process design person. So it took a little while to put some of those things in place. The other thing that happens inside of a large organization is there's a natural rhythm and cadence to how decisions get made and when things get staffed and resourced, and you have to be agile and kind of quick and opportunistic to make sure that if you're coming up on the annual planning cycle or the annual budgeting cycle, that you have things lined up and in place in order to make sure that you hit that, because in a large organization, if you miss that cycle, there's sometimes you can lose 6, 9 months or even a year of progress kind of waiting for the window of resource investment to open up. So be very cognizant around what the cadence is in your organization and what you have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good point, especially around aligning around those budget cycles and certainly thinking 6 months ahead of when that budget is due. And I think that you had shared that in your second to last slide as around what your vision is for the next couple of years. So having that vision and having that program plan in mind over the next 3 to 5 years is critical to align with those budget pieces. That's a very great point. Here's another question that came in. What criteria did you use to evaluate when you were looking at technology providers? Like, what were the key elements that stuck out to you that you absolutely needed to have when you were thinking about a partner?
So I'll tell you what, that's a great question. As you know, and I'm smiling when I say this, we had some miserably long spreadsheet in front of us where we had vendors, we had our kind of stack ranked criteria. But as I kind of back up, and I'll hit them at kind of a broad, high level, we wanted to be able to pull all of our surveys into a single integrated platform. We wanted to be able to do integrated text analytics, because the manual tagging and machine learning, the manual tagging and all of that work consumes months of activity for us and hundreds of hours of humans going after that. So we wanted to kind of live the promise of automation, if you will. I talked about that mobile application, and we wanted to be able to have fast, rapid, quick engagement with our sales force. We wanted to be able to tier our dashboards, operational dashboards for people doing surveys, mid-level dashboards for people concerned about specific products, and then being able to have executive dashboards at the top. We also wanted partners who had, we looked at, as we evaluated, we looked at, as I mentioned, who has IP beyond just the technology? Do you really understand the problem we're trying to solve? Do you understand customer experience? Do you understand NPS? Do you understand all of the transformation that has to take place? Do you have access based upon your customer base? Do you have access to some of the best customers in the world and kind of privileged insight that you can share around best practices without disclosing, information about other companies? And so, are you really at the peak of the mountain? And that mountain goes up every year as all of us focus on innovation. But do you understand and have those best practices? Do you have a professional services organization that if we need to do some projects, whether it's around technology or other transformation pieces, that we could engage in? And I think lastly, at the end of the day, and I hope you were smiling when you said it did take us a long time, because I know it did, but we had to get to know the people. And so just as we seek to build trusted strategic partnerships with our customers, I wanted to have a trusted strategic partnership because this one for us, the platform and the provider that we picked was so important. There was no opportunity for a misstep because it could have been catastrophic to the program. So we took our time, we evaluated everybody, and lastly, I met a lot of people at Medallia, including the executive team, and became convinced that the vision, the roadmap, the technology, and the entire management system and organization that was put around it.
Fantastic. We're getting close to the top of the hour, but we do have time for one more question. I think this is a very important question. A lot of B2B companies face this. What advice would you give to a business that has had a customer feedback program in place for several years and has reached a plateau in terms of results, and where leadership engagement and enthusiasm is starting to wane? What type of advice would you give to that organization?
So I'll tell you what, I think that's a beautiful question because, and I've talked about this in the past at conferences, this idea that you've got to plant. I'm not a gardener. My wife is a gardener. She's a wonderful gardener, and what that means is like you come out during the year, and she plants things in such a way that the garden lights up in different areas at different points of the year because she's planning for it. One of the big mistakes is like you're going after just the quick wins. Quick wins are like kind of sugar calories. They run out. They run out pretty quickly. And so, as a transformation leader, you've got to be able to have kind of that multi-year view, thinking about it as a garden. What do you want to bloom in the first year, the second year, the third year, and the fourth year? And let's say you're in the fourth year or the fifth year, and it's like things are starting to wane. Here's what's never going to wane. What's never going to wane is I still have never met a CEO or an executive that didn't want their organization to grow faster and more profitably. Never met one, ever. Have never met a senior leader that's still in place that didn't want to have a better, deeper relationship with customers. Never met an executive that didn't realize every other competitor is going in there trying to do exactly the same thing. And so your source of advantage is ultimately, you might have a great product for a year or 2 years, but those development cycles are compressing. You have to have quick, rapid access to customers. You have to know them better. You have to serve them better. And so if there's a refresh moment, it might be the moment where the strategy cycle at your company refreshes. It might be the moment where there is that, I called it the right conditions, where there might be a turnover. There might be a compelling event. And I also call it like marriage, like, renewing the vows. Sometimes it's important just to circle up with everybody, talk about how important it is, and kind of renew your vows with your team and with the management team to talk about, is this a vector of competitive strategy that we as a company are going to choose to invest in, to go differentiate in, and if yes, go long on it, because like marriage, it's never over. And sometimes you just need to take a little vacation to get things to refresh.
Well, thank you very much, Dayton. We absolutely appreciate your time today. Excellent insights and story and journey and transformation. Congratulations to CA Technologies. Medallia is thrilled to have you as a partner. If you'd like to learn any more about our best practice package offerings, you can certainly email Medallia at engage@medallia.com, or certainly visit our Medallia.com solutions and our internet site. Also, if you want to continue the discussion, you can certainly join us at Experience Europe 17 in London, November 7th through 8th. There you can find the registration information. And actually, Dayton spoke at our Experience Europe last year. So look forward to having more speakers such as him to learn from. So with that, Erica, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Dayton. This material was fantastic. We appreciate having your support, especially on CXDay. And thank you for all that listened in to this session. The recording will be available on the CXPA website. It will also be emailed out to all of the registrants. So from all of us at CXPA, we wish you the very best and happy CX Day. Talk to you again soon. Bye.
Bye.